Thank you for staying with us. Petroleum marketers are worried that fuel prices might increase due to Dangote's recent decision to halt sale of petroleum products in Naira. This suspension follows federal government's failure to continue crude oil sales in local currency to Dangote refinery and the unresolved Naira for crude talks held afterwards. As a result, the cost of loading petrol at the private depots in Lagos jumped up to about 900 Naira per litre from less than 850 Naira per litre. The Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, has cautioned retailers against stockpiling out of panic, warning that this could lead to significant losses if prices drop later. Recall that when Dangote refinery had been selling petroleum products in Naira, it always complained of a mismatch between its sales proceeds and crude oil purchase obligations, which are denominated in US dollars. Well, joining us via Zoom for this conversation is the team lead of Platforms Africa, Adeola Yusuf. Good morning. It's good to have you join us. Well, if you can hear me, I would like for you to perhaps help us better understand how things are situated as we speak. When the government came into this agreement, that was October 2024, to have a Naira for crude for Naira swap deal, it says it was going to be for 6 months, and that will be based on the availability of crude. Now, it is supposed to end at the end of March. This agreement is supposed to stop at the end of March. But we are hearing there's been so much discrepancies going on behind the scene. There's been so much back and forth, and that we do not know if this whole agreement would be extended. Is it a matter of the unavailability of crude, or is it that there are issues between NNPCL and Dangote refinery?
Okay, thank you very much. To start with, I will say that it is very, very unfortunate that at this moment that is still people not being sure of the right direction as regarding the Naira for food sale. By now, we need to have understood that this is the true position, whether the deal is will be extended or they will stop the deal. And when we have a situation where there's no clarity, it gives room for some marketers, some elements that want to profit here. But for Nigerians to properly understand this scenario, let's put it in proper perspective. Remember that the first thing that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did, maybe one of the first things, but the most one of the things that he did that a lot of people are still remembering, that still in the minds of a lot of people, is the regulation of the downstream sector. Remember that the subsidy is gone, mantra at the Eagle Square on May 29, 2024. And with that, we are expected to have fluctuation in the price. We are expected to have competition. There shouldn't be a fixed price for petrol. So when we have a situation where the product is sold at so amount at the filling station A and another amount at filling station B, that is expected because that is what competition and free market situation we expect. So and we will have seen that between that time and now, we have been seeing fluctuation, maybe review upward or downward when it comes to the price of the product. Even the filling station that is selling at price X yesterday may sell at price Y today, depending on the market variable. So that is what we are expected. And Nigerians should know that because we have a free market, there will always be that review upward, downward, depending on the variables. But in that situation, we are sure that no one is fixing the price and subsidy is not being paid, on that product. Having said that, remember that when Dangote refinery started operation, it became one of the major variables in the Nigerian downstream market because it's operating a refinery that is the biggest unit refinery in the world, 650,000 barrels. Aside from this, note that when forefathers of Nigerians were putting up Nigerian refineries, Despite the fact that Nigeria is producing around 2 million barrels, of food every day, there is a local obligation, that Nigeria must be supplying, 445,000 barrels of crude oil in country for local refining. And that, they came to that conclusion because of the fact that the aggregate barrels capacity of refineries, foreign refineries they have in Nigeria is 445,000 barrels. So there is that local obligation that Nigeria is supposed to be doing. So the sense in the Naira for food was when, Dangote started, Port Harcourt refinery started, the government, if the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his wisdom, advised a technical committee to ensure that, those refineries, particularly the private refineries, are getting, the products in Naira, because of the fact that we are trying to eliminate the dollar, concern in that variable. Because one thing that we need to know is that the dollar variable, the dollar in that variable is affecting, the local pricing of the product. So it's a good decision. But remember that time when that agreement, was being signed, was being consummated, it was a 6-month window that they gave to that agreement. So it was supposed to start. And it started actually from the 1st of October 2024, and it's expected to end by 31st of March 2025. I've read a lot of reports, people saying termination and all that, but the true picture of it is that contract is a 6-month contract, and the condition of it is that they have to sit down again and renegotiate whether the condition that made them to start that contract at all are still in place, whether they are no more in place. So what we have now is that by now we ought to have been, informed of whether that contract will continue or not. But you will not blame Dangote. What he did was to announce to his customers, to marketers that are getting product from him, that because of that arrangement, he will now want to start selling for them in Naira. But a lot of Nigerians need to understand that Dangote is not the, is not the one, one responsible for 100% supply of the product in the Nigerian market. Remember that Dangote has marketers that are collecting product from it, and is in the competition with other marketers. As I tell you, as I talk to you now, 154 million barrels from statistics available have been imported by some marketers. NNPC is still there, Dangote is still there. So what Dangote has done, which is expected of him, is to tell those that are collecting product from it, based on that arrangement, to what he will be doing now is to supply to them in dollars. So to now generalize will be somewhat difficult, but I believe that some people are already catching in on that. Remember that what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has done in his wisdom is to ensure, that Nigerians get the product at affordable price. But remember that those elements, the marketers, all those people that are making life difficult and miserable, they are still there. So that means that the president must even do more now, because people are already catching in on that advantage. People need to understand that the situation is normal. What we are having now is normal. It's not abnormal at all. But we just need to know where we are going, whether the product, whether the contract will be extended or not.
Well, this saga is happening shortly after the price slash, initially from Dangote and then NNPC. And from the way the price war went, it looks as if NNPC is not too happy with Dangote bringing down the price, and that forms the basis for Dangote saying, if at 1 week to the expiration of that contract we have not renegotiated, that means the contract has been terminated. Is Dangote right to feel that way?
Okay, so I've said it earlier. You cannot say a contract that has terms and conditions written that is going to last for 6 months, and we have not even been to the end of this month, is terminated. We all understand English. If you use the word termination, it means that if the contract is supposed to be for 6 months, maybe in 3 months they have ended that contract. So it is not right, because what we are talking about is business, and we need to make use of the proper what is it called terminology. So what we can say is, maybe we can say that maybe the contract is nearing its expiration period, and by now we need to know what is going on, whether they resign another contract. So, but having said that, note that this contract is not directly between the NNPC and Dangote. The contract was, between a technical committee. The only thing is that they are getting the product. NNPC is just the one in charge of, 445,000 barrels local obligation in Nigeria. And note that NNPC too is a private company, quote and unquote, because NNPC has been liberalized too. You understand? So NNPC is in competition with Dangote at the front of the downstream. So it may not be right to, so that Nigerians that are listening to us will be able to understand this issue. So, but as we speak now, the head of the technical committee, that is Mr. Adeola, said that they are still, the discussion is still ongoing on how to do that. But like I said earlier, what is not good, which I wouldn't expect, is for any monopoly at all. If that will help Nigeria, and we could see that when that got that product, it was slashing the prices, and NNPC too was slashing the prices, and that is very good for Nigeria. You will know that a lot of Nigerians and people said that price war, they don't want it to end, because a product that sold around 1,200 naira last year is being sold around 850 naira this year. So that tells you that what the initiative by the president is good. At least I would just call that should be, the contract should be renewed. The contract should be renewed. Maybe for the next 6 months for them to see. It will be very good if you have the price of petrol at 500 naira. And with the way things are going, it's likely, a lot of forecasts are read that it's likely that we get that. What should be paramount at the mind of the Mr. President, which I believe he will, is to ensure that Nigerians are the center of whatever decision they want to make, particularly this decision. Because what a lot of Nigerians will expect ordinarily is anything that will make the price of petrol to sell even below 500 naira. And you can see that is part of what can make it to sell below 500 naira.
Absolutely. I'm wondering how that is going to work, because if you look at OPEC stats, they said that Nigeria's 1.6 million barrels daily output is mostly tied to foreign debt until 2030, the 9 Dangote of feedstocks and some other little refineries. So isn't this evidence that Nigeria's oil sector is too entangled in dollar-based commitments to allow for the Naira deal to succeed?
Okay, thank you very much. It is not only Nigerian crude oil that is entangled in dollar. You know that the unit of exchange for crude oil anywhere in the world is dollar. So there is no way you will not have cases of dollar when it comes to. So in fact, they call it petrodollar. We're journalists. At times we call it petrodollar instead of calling it petroleum, or we are referring to dollar or money. So having said that, what I have said earlier is that there is a local obligation that is even aside from the OPEC quota or OPEC market, and that local obligation, Nigeria is a crude producer. The forefathers of Nigeria put up refineries, 4 refineries, and those 4 refineries have 445,000 barrels, capacity, and they have put that local obligation that we are producing crude oil in Nigeria. And every day 445,000 barrels of this product that you're producing in country should be supplied to these local refineries. So it is that 445,000 that is outside of OPEC quota or barrel or OPEC basket that Nigeria is expected to supply the local market. But I understand that at some point when Nigeria was producing even below 1 million barrels, that was some years back, it greatly affected, the local, supply quotation that I mentioned earlier. There was a time that we were not even able to do that. But note that every day, that local obligation has been enshrined, even in the PIA, to be supplied locally. And it was that local, supply obligation that the government, has now been supplying to Dangote and other private refineries. It's important that we start mentioning other private refineries. But it's not only Dangote, although Dangote is the market leader when it comes to private refining in the country. So it doesn't look like, this issue is between Dangote, or maybe Dangote versus NNPC. Far from me. Some people, from the knowledge, from information I have, some people are even catching in on this, crisis when they know that Nigerians do not understand. I'm aware of some marketers that are already stockpiling this product. So what that means is that, pre-PIA era, the mentality, is still there for a lot of people. Some people too, when they heard that Dangote made that declaration, not knowing that Dangote just made that declaration for, marketers are getting product from Dangote. A lot of them have started their, the panic buying and all that. So the mentality, even though I understand that it takes some time before that mentality will go. The true picture is that, when Dangote when Dangote increased the price the other time, when you go to other filling stations that are not collecting product from Dangote, you don't get that Dangote price. So people should note that if Dangote is increasing the price too, it is not going to be all the filling stations. In fact, some marketers, just like I said, have already imported, started importing the product because that is what the market takes.
All right. Okay, for us to make judicious use of our time, before now, there were talks about we not having enough crude on the ground. And so there are those who are saying, because this deal is tied to availability of crude, as we speak now, are we saying that crude is not even a challenge as we speak, that we have it in enough supply? Because even at some point, the Dangote refinery had complained that the quota they were supposed to be getting, they were not getting up to that. And then do you see this, that there might be a possibility of an extension of this whole contract at the end of the day? Because the refinery has said that they are committed to selling this product to Nigerians in Naira.
Okay, thank you very much. Before answering that question, it's important that we commend President Bola Tinubu, because some of us, were looking at how the Naira for crude will even play out when they announced that deal. The reason simply is that if Nigeria is selling the product to private refineries in Naira, it means they have denied Nigeria the privilege of dollar earning. You understand? For a government to prefer to sell its product, the one that it can sell in dollar in Naira, it requires a lot of commendation. And we have to, be very sincere about this one. So, and that was part of the reason that they pegged the contract in 6 months. Everywhere in the world, all contracts have, terms and conditions, as well as the expiration period. So it was a 6-month period. Now to talk about availability of crude oil. Note that I will use statistics to answer the question. The budget, in Nigerian 2025 budget, we're having about between 1.8 and 2 million barrels targets. From data available from NUPRC, that's Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Commission, Petroleum Regulatory Commission, Nigeria is doing over 1.5 million, and there is that projection that Nigeria will get to around 2 million barrels very soon. Remember that by January this year, some crude crude acreages were sold. I'm talking of the marginal oil fields were sold to a number of companies and who have started work on those acreages. Remember that the two major contracts. I'm talking of asset sale. The Shell Petroleum Development Company, assets, shallow water and shallow water assets were sold to Renaissance, which is a local company. Remember, ExxonMobil assets, was sold to SPDC, and those contracts were completed this year. So that gives you the idea that we are likely to have not abundance this time around, but we are likely to have an increase in our production rating. Ceteris paribus, that's all things being equal. You understand? So that are those works in line, but that doesn't mean that Nigeria is satisfied. Nigeria can never be satisfied, particularly when we are not doing up to. There was a time we were doing 2.3 million barrels, every day. There was a time we were doing even more than 2.3 million barrels. So we have not even reached that, level at all. So we should, keep, the pressure on the government and, praying for the government and even supporting the government to ensure that everything that they are put in line or put in place, and, all of them, are productive in ensuring that Nigerian food production increases. But fact needs to be established that when all the refineries, because that is the question, that is the way I will answer that question now. When all Nigerian refineries are working, remember that I tell you that there are 445,000 barrels capacity refineries. If all Nigerian refineries are working, there won't be, except they want to do another contract outside of the local obligation of 405,000 barrels. There won't be that availability for private, refineries. But what we should encourage is competition. What we should encourage is Dangote getting crude oil cheaper, Watersmith getting oil cheaper, NMDPRA getting oil cheaper, and those that want to even import, they should import. NMDPRA should ensure that what they are importing into the country, a standard, product, and we will have more product, and even the supply will be more than demand. And we understand the simple economic principle of demand and supply. When the supply is more than the demand, definitely it will affect the price. So, and what we are talking about, Nigerians has always been at the center. So people are ready to catch in on this situation, but the government shouldn't allow that. Dangote shouldn't allow that. NNPC shouldn't allow that. We should all ensure that everyone works together to ensure that Nigeria gets these products. It's available and it's very cheap for Nigeria.
Like you said earlier on, Dangote is the market leader when it comes to the private sector in the oil business in Nigeria. So I want to ask this as simply as possible. Could you tell us the direct effect Dangote's decision will have on the Nigerian people? Let us be very realistic about this. People have found out marketers that buy from Dangote, and we see queues on those filling stations when we do not have scarcity. In other words, Dangote's products are preferred by Nigerians. So whether we like it or not, this decision will have some kind of effect on the average Nigerian. Could you explain to us what those effects might be and, if possible, how to avert them?
Okay, thank you very much. There is no, begging the fact that because Dangote is, the market leader when it comes to private refining business in Nigeria, anything it does definitely, will affect a section of that in market. But the question you will ask, or people that I will ask people that are listening to us, maybe a rhetorical question, that when Dangote reduced the price, he has reduced the price on 3 occasions. What that did was, the NMPC and others reducing their price. That is what will happen. But we need to understand that we are in a free market. This product has been deregulated. You understand? Dangote's decision, and if you look at the announcement he made, if you look at that copy, you see that he directed it to his customers. He directed it to marketers, that are receiving the product from Dangote. What the free market, situation dictates is that if you are not comfortable with Dangote product, you drive to another, filling station to get product. But I understand what you are trying to say. We still have that mentality of pre-liberalization of pre-deregulation market. That is what we inform someone who is very, very sure there is no scarcity of the product, queuing up, or trying to buy, fill up his tank when it's not so necessary. That is what we inform marketers, because they had, a piece of information, trying to lock their gate against, or trying to ensure that they are not selling despite the fact that they have. That is what we inform the sensibility of a lot of Nigerians, trying to see that, okay, hell is about to let loose. TVC is doing a great job by this program, informing a lot of Nigerians. So it's our obligation for people to understand that, we have a free market. It's a free market. And I've just told you now, from statistics at the Nigerian Port Authority, 154 million barrels of petrol has been imported by marketers who are not comfortable, who do not even want to deal with NNPC or Dangote or any other person. It's a free market. So if you have that orientation, if you know that it's a free market now, we will not be costly. Even if NNPC, at this moment now, even if NNPC say that it's going to be selling product at so amount, it shouldn't necessarily affect the price. Don't mean that, the head is about to let loose. We have to understand that what free market means is that if you are not comfortable at the filling station, you drive into the next one that you are comfortable with. If you are not comfortable with a product from NNPC, you drive to another filling station to get your product. If you are not comfortable with Dangote, if you are not comfortable with NNPC, you drive to Dangote. People do not understand. I wonder a lot when Nigerians want to queue behind Dangote or NNPC in a matter that at the end of the day will affect them. What we should understand is that we have a free market already. And despite the fact that, okay, if one is doing something, it will indirectly affect another, but it doesn't mean that hell is about to let loose. Nigerians should understand that what is best for us is, the contract, the Naira for food contract to be renewed, maybe for the next 6 months or 3 months. But we should know that doesn't mean that if that contract, expires and they are not renewing the contract, it doesn't mean that hell is about to let loose. We should understand that if you are not comfortable with what PIA has done for us, what the Eagle Square Declaration by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on May 9 did to us is that there is a free market now. If you are not comfortable with a product from a marketer, you drive another product. If people want to, the marketers are even at liberty to import the product, not even depending on that.
Adeola Yusuf, can you hear me? I know you are so passionate and there's so much to say about this matter, but we must thank you, Adeola Yusuf, Team Lead Platforms Africa, for your time on the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. All right, we will take a break now. When we return, we'll focus our attention on the recall process of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan.